Well, hello and welcome to a very, very exciting video. This has been a long time waiting for this evidence to come forward. About a little over 3 years ago, when I first launched the Unspirituality channel, there was one video out there, video audio, of this caller calling into the Art Bell show in the 1990s. And the title of the video was David Wilcock, Fraud Actor. Okay, and so I was like, okay, and I listened to it, and immediately I was like, that's David Wilcock. And so I went ahead and made a series of videos with that audio in there doing a commentary. And so through the years, there's been, just a lot of feedback and a lot of people saying, boom, that's David Wilcock, and other people going, no, it's not David Wilcock. The majority, from what I can say, has been people immediately could tell it was David Wilcock because his voice and inflection is so rare that, I challenge people to try to find someone with that voice and inflection anywhere, in your social circles, let alone specifically in the New Age disclosure, circle. And so I was really convinced. I mean, I was just like, I'll bet my house on it. So I had got somebody who was what I call an insider, but it was somebody that worked in the intelligence agency, and they were involved in part of their job was to observe the disinformation going on in the New Age universe, and that's how we met. Anyway, so he had the audio done, and we're talking very advanced, high-level software, and he came back with a 100% match. The only problem with that is there was some red tape that happened. I can't really tell the whole story, but it was going to be coming to me, and it ended up I'm not getting it. So I was like, damn. So I kept on asking people, somebody's got to do a voice analysis of this. So I finally gave up because, I just figured, well, I just, nothing happened for years, and I figured it's just interesting that no one's done it. Well, I just did an interview from Stephen Cambion, okay, and his YouTube channel is Stephen Cambion, Steven Cambion, Cambian, and the show that he does is called The Midnight Hour, and he does sort of an Art Bell type show. Well, I just did an interview with him, not knowing anything about them. I just interviewed him, not knowing anything about this and what I'm about to tell you, and all of a sudden he drops the bomb that he did the voice analysis, and he's a super computer techie. I forget what he's, a computer engineer or whatever it is. I wasn't sure exactly, but it'll be in the interview in which you are about to hear. And he did this voice analysis on software that costs like $10,000 software. This is high level software, and he basically checked all of these various voices compared to the voice on the caller who says he's from, the year 2072 and he traveled back in time. Just another silly story. And found that nobody's voice matched until he got another David Wilcock audio from another, video or somewhere, and found that it was a 99.999% match. This is overwhelming evidence. So I about fell off my chair. I was like, are you kidding? Because this shows, and again, you're innocent until proven guilty, but this shows beyond a reasonable doubt that this was David Wilcock. It shows that he was telling stories that were not true in the 1990s, because it wasn't soon after that he went into the Edgar Cayce story. And then from there went into the whole disclosure thing. And now they're going, him and Sather and Dr. Sala and Corey Good they're now doing the pole shift story, in Sunflare story, which is a story that Drumvalo Melchizedek was pushing in the late 1990s, mid to late 1990s. The pole shift was a big deal. Same exact thing. Okay. So anyway, this is damning evidence, okay? And so check this out. You're going to hear the interview, and then after the interview, I'm going to play the full audio of this, and you can take a look for yourself. Now, here's the even better news. I am going to have Steven on the show, on my channel. He's going to show all of the data, the voice analysis, everything, so you guys can see what's going on. And so I highly recommend that you share this video, like the video, whatever. I think you're going to be, I think some of you are going to be shocked, to be honest with you. Some of you will be relieved, like me, because again, validated. Because, I had a number of people say, oh, it's not him. I actually had someone bet me money that it wasn't him. And I said, yeah, I don't think so. Stay tuned. You know what I mean? So finally, surprise, surprise, somebody did it. And here's the interview. Enjoy. And we'll see you on the next video, in which we will be revealing all the details of this. Okay, enjoy. Now, have you heard the audio of the caller in to Art Bell in the 1990s?
Yes.
That video?
Oh, and I could be the first. I can give you an exclusive announcement here.
Really?
Yes. Oh, yes. I for a long time said, I know that's him. Most people that listen to it can, David Wilcock is a very specific way of speaking. Most people that listen to that say, that's David Wilcock.
Right.
Very few people argue with it. Wilcock's never answered for that. I wanted to make him answer for that. And I also wanted some scientific backup to say, that's his voice. So here's what I did. I went to somebody that has access to incredible voice software that can match, that's used in law enforcement to exclude suspects. So what we did is we loaded in 100 speakers. I even went out of my way to find people that were close to the way David Wilcock speaks, come from the same area of the country that he grew up in. So they'd have similar accents, inflections, whatever. So we loaded hundreds of verified samples of people speaking that were not David Wilcock. And then we loaded in a sample of David Wilcock speaking. We let the software work, and the software came back 99% match to the one known David Wilcock speaking voice sample that we got from one of his lectures. So what that means is that I believe I will be the first to present actual scientific evidence that can be proven through computer science that that's David Wilcock's voice on this early Art Bell show. Wow. Claiming to be a time traveling, time traveler. That was the first scam that he thought of, I guess. That didn't stick. So then he decided he was Edgar Casey reincarnated and ran with that shtick.
Now I'm just, this is actually really big news for me, because I was actually the first one that really brought that thing out. Because there was only one.
I may have seen your video way early on before we talked and met about that. And that's one of the things that I said. I always thought about that and said, why hasn't someone used voice print analysis software to nail him down?
I have for years. I've interacted with people about this, and it's been a big thing. When are you going to get the voice analysis? Talking years, and I've been asking people, somebody's got to do it, because my insider, which it really was, and insiders, he's a person from the intelligence agency. He did full blown with the highest, tech that you can get. Came back, it was 100% David Wilcock. He was supposed to send it to me. There's a whole story behind this, why it didn't get to me, and I'm not even going to begin to get into it.
Well,
so I really wanted somebody to do it so I could break the story. So what I'd like to do, when are you breaking the story? Because this is a big deal for me.
Sometime in the next couple of months. And what I will do is I will be more than willing to share the data with you. I'm still sort of like organizing the data so I could show the charts and graphs and the data output from this software, which is very sophisticated, the best you can get as far as voice print analysis software. Right. And what I'll do is I will share that with you, and you can share it with all of your listeners. I just wanted to mention it because this is one of the things that we've been working on. Because one of the things with Wilcock is he doesn't respond to things,
Right.
In other words, we caught him with this Pete Peterson being a complete and total fraud. He doesn't address that Pete Peterson is a complete and total fraud. So once we have him on that, now I want to have him on this voice print so that people can start asking him, why were you pretending to be a time traveler on our Bell show?
This is very important to put out. Now, can I do a prep video promoting your thing with this clip?
Yeah, let's talk about it off air, and we'll see what we can get
let me do that,
sure.
And I'll prep your video that's coming. So I'll do a video, because again, this is quite a big deal, and here's why. This categorically proves he's been telling stories. This
Sure.
absolutely
Yeah.
proves that he's been shoveling up the BS since the early 1990s. This is an absolutely fake story that he made up. Then he went to the Edgar Casey thing, which completely really fell apart. It's surprised he even says anything about it anymore. And then the next thing was the disclosure thing, and now it's going to be the pole shift thing. Same game. So this is what I said. If this can be finally publicly proved, which I was so eager to get the data on the one that I had, and trust me, this guy was the real deal. Okay, he was the real
Sure.
deal,
Sure.
and he called me and he said it's 100 it's 1,000% him. We absolutely, but I couldn't, you know what I mean? It was really hearsay and anecdotal evidence, so I couldn't present anything.
Really, though, I have a background in computer science, and I know that how this voice print software, at least the type that we used, is used to exclude subjects. So in other words, we loaded hundreds of voice samples, and then that were not David Wilcock. Then we load one voice sample of David Wilcock known speaking, and this is from his own lecture, so he can't deny that's him speaking on the known sample. The computer will go analyze the unknown sample, and it excluded every speaker except for the known speaker of David Wilcock, that clip. So we'll have data for all of this that you can see in charts and graphs.
This is breaking news. I had no idea.
Yeah, I didn't know we were going to talk about this. I'm sorry. I didn't know I was going to spill the beans yet, but I know that you had some interest in this, and this is something that people should know about.
Well, yeah,
some more things that we're working on.
It's a big deal for Unspirituality because this has been the one video which I've been advertising for about 2-3 years. That's the smoking gun.
Yeah, I didn't know that you were that intensely interested.
Oh yeah,
in it, or I would have shared sooner with you privately.
So this is really serendipitous. I'm so glad. So I'm going to do a video.
Yeah, I can come back on and we'll do another show just on that if you want to do that.
Yeah, what I'd like to do is I'm going to do, probably here in the next couple of days, I'm going to do a video promotion of our conversation here. I'm going to promote, lead people to your channel, and that we'll announce the date that you're going to show all the data, all the information.
Sure.
And I'm so excited. I can't tell you.
You know what?
No idea that you were going to.
That's kind of just the tip of the iceberg of some of the things that we've been working on. We've been working on. I sort of took a break from my show because I started to realize, like, if I don't have some time to do the research, then the shows suffer. So we needed to take a break so that I'm not under the gun. I got to hurry up and finish 2 hours in 5 days here, and I wanted to do more deeper digs and be able to break bigger stories, and you need the time to do that. So we sort of took a break. We worked on that. We're working on some other things that I think people are going to find compelling.
Do you have any juicy crumbs you can throw us?
Well, one of the other things that we were doing is fact-checking Corey Good. One of the things that I realized, and this is interesting, is Richard, let me see. There are people that talk about Corey Good, and they explain, you cannot prove his stories false. There's a thing called falsifiability, which means I can't prove if this statement you're making is false or true. There's no way for me to do that. I believe that Corey Good's whole narrative was specifically constructed so that you cannot prove him to be a liar. Oh,
sorry.
No problem.
Sorry about that. I'm cueing the video so people can
sure.
They can hear the audio, okay?
So people, if you go trying to fact check Corey Good, it's like, okay, you were in space for 20 years. What about your friends and family while you were gone for those 20 years? Well, no, I time traveled back and was age regressed, so you can't prove that I'm lying about that. But one of the things that I realized is that every time that Corey Good speaks about some earthly matter that can be fact checked, we decide that he's a liar. We find out he's a liar. He talked about this CPS calling him and saying, we got complaints that you're running a cult and your children are in imminent danger. If there are CPS complaints, there is paperwork. So we looked into that. There's no records of any paperwork. So I challenged him, said, if that really happened, show us the paperwork. There's one example of fact-checking Corey Good where he comes out to be a total liar. Another one was all these times that he's claiming he's calling the FBI and the state police on people. I keep calling the state police and the FBI he's mentioning. Adding somebody on Twitter is not reporting to the FBI or
Well,
police.
yeah, and what happened to this whole legal thing to CW? I mean, he was
Yeah,
here posturing himself
and
like, oh, we got the legal, we've got, our lawyers are working
he's
on this and working
dropping
on that.
bags of legal hammers. That's my
Well, yeah, like
favorite statement.
who's gonna do that on Twitter? What
A
legit?
galactic love and light ambassador
Oh, yeah,
dropping
yeah,
legal
yeah.
hammers. Yes.
Yeah, the
Yeah. Well, that was
raw
another thing.
material. Yeah, the raw material is really funny. The thing is that you're not supposed to do that with raw material.
Yeah, you're not supposed to check
That's
any of
not
that.
coming
Yeah.
from a fourth dimensional place at all. But who in a legitimate, legal issue, legal case, is gonna be leaking stuff like that, on Twitter? It seems to me that was just a way of posturing, and waving his feathers, or waving his flag, or.
Yeah, and I think there's many more examples. One example is that he claimed that a spaceship was landing in his backyard, and that the spaceship was taking him to the moon base and all these other places.
Right.
So what we did is we tried desperately, exhaustively. We tried to find a neighbor that saw a spaceship landing in his backyard, and I'm just as surprised as all of you to find out that not one neighbor, not his next door neighbor on either side, not his next door neighbor to his backyard at the time, not the neighbor directly behind him, not the neighbor directly in front of him, no one on his block.
Yeah, but you know why?
No one saw the spaceship.
But you know why?
I'm guessing I wrote it down and I sealed it in an envelope that he would say that the ship was closed after the fact.
Right. Or
Yes.
only he had the special eyes to see it. Him and
Yes.
He dreamed. Can you believe that the whole Blue Avians, the whole thing, all came from him being a dream?
Now he's saying that, though. That's sort of like an addition to the story. I thought that it was supposed to be in person.
Way out. It's a way out, because my theory on this is, if finally this whole thing, there's nothing they can do about it, it completely gets exposed, that they're going to fall back to, well, this is what we thought it was.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. And now maybe he's pivoting himself to be some sort of doomsday cult leader instead of an alien cult leader. Right. I don't know what's going on with him, but
Stephen, before we go any further, I've got it. Let's play this audio of David Wilcock now calling in the 1990s to the Art Bell Show.
Sure.
So for those of you who haven't heard it, this is it. And, I got to tell you, throughout the years, again, I've had most people say, oh, it's him, but I've had quite a lot of people say, oh, it's not him. I'll bet you any amount of money. And I mean, just, one day you're going to find out. I mean, this is really poetic justice for me, right? Because I was so frustrated that my source wasn't able to get it to me. So here we go, folks. This is the audio of a man who, up till now, most people absolutely knew it was David Wilcock, and here we go.
From the Kingdom of Nye, Coast to Coast AM continues with Art Bell.
All right. Well, I said no future employees of Area 51, but this guy tripped me up. He's on the line now, and I can tell you're like in a vehicle of some kind.
Yes, I'm driving a truck right now because I'm making a historical study of life in the 20th century. And there's really no better way to study it than getting out there and seeing it and experiencing it.
So you're sort of slumming in the 20th, huh?
There you go. Actually, I'm from the 21st century, or the 21st century, the year 2072. And
I just got to say, I love the part where he misses that one.
I worked at Area 51, or I guess you would say I will work at Area 51, which at that time is the nation's capital. There's a series of catastrophes that will occur, and I don't want to create a paradox by saying too much, but some events occur around the turn of the century in the eastern part of the country. Things happen where the government of the United States has to relocate.
Now, bear in mind that you're on the air right now in Washington, D.C. on WWRC. I mean, they're all listening to you, so...
Yes, that's why I have to be very careful.
Please be very careful, yes. So you're saying around the turn of the century, around 2000, something is going to happen.
Yeah, I don't want to get into any more than that, but I worked as an aide for the office of the president at Area 51. And in that time in 2072. The reason Area 51 was picked to be the capital of the United States, and for that matter, basically a one-world government is set up with the United States leading that effort.
Oh, good.
There is, by that time, there will be no question of life throughout the universe. In fact, there'll be several races of aliens living with us.
Okay, now I'm going to pause it there because I'm going to save this for when you break the story and when I put the prepper out and all that stuff so people can listen to the whole thing. But folks, you guys tell me on the thread if that isn't David Wilcock. And again, I said this over and over with people that said it's not him. I was like, how can you even say that? There is no, I mean, how many people do you know just on the planet that talks like him? And what are the chances of somebody in the disclosure, in the new age thing, that's going to talk exactly like this guy? I mean, it's so low. And then you add in the history of storytelling and the connection to Art Bell and the whole thing, again, without any hard evidence that you're going to be presenting. Again, it's just the human ear.
I think it was just lucky for me that, like, I have a background in computer science, and the software to do this, one of the reasons that nobody has done this is that the software to do this correctly is very, very expensive. One of the other things that I also did as an aside to the voice print analysis software is that I isolated specific words from this clip that you just played. And then I took David Wilcock saying the same word from a known source, and I can play them together, and it's like a stereo track of the same. It's like an overdub. I also ran a recording studio, and to my ears, so in other words, when he says the word time, I took him saying the word time from a known, and you can drag the clips, play them together, and listen to it.
Right.
And see, it's exactly the same. I will say this, though, that the pitch was a little tiny bit off, but that could be explained by him being a much younger. His voice deepened as he got old. But the difference was negligible. And I did that over and over and over again with, I don't know, 10 or 20 different words. And, I'm still trying to figure out how to present that evidence to show. Right. I also was going to just rip apart some of his lectures and take every word and try to line it up for the whole performance, but that's quite an undertaking, and I haven't gotten that far yet. But I have done 10 or 20 words, and it's exactly the same speaker.
I cannot tell you how much I look forward to this presentation that you're going to do.
Sure. I'll come back and we'll do it, and I'll show the graphs, and I'll show the charts, and I'll show the word matching as well. Because I think it's compelling evidence. And again, just to be clear, the voice print analysis software does not exactly match, it excludes. So in other words, every speaker we loaded in there, except for the known David Wilcock sample, was excluded as being the speaker in the unknown sample.
Right. So in a court of law, can you say?
Oh, I believe that voice print analysis is used. Voice print analysis is used in court. Voice print analysis is used in court, usually for things like people leaving threats on a telephone message or something like that. Law enforcement has used the voice print analysis to say, no, that is you. We've excluded. And it's the same method. They'll exclude 1,000 other speakers, and your voice was the only voice that the software did not exclude as the unknown speaker.
Now, can you use the word proof now?
I believe that I will meet a burden of proof that proves definitively that that's his voice. That's my belief. That's my opinion. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know what
guilty. Innocent until proven guilty. But fine. The evidence is you'd have to literally be reaching on levels that insane people reach to try to bounce around this one.
Yeah, and again, my point with Wilcock has always been, I don't want him to ignore this. Address it. Tell us why your voice is the only voice. He's never talked about that clip. He's never, ever talked. I don't believe he will. I believe when confronted with the evidence, he's just going to ignore it like he does with everything else that doesn't fit his narrative. And interestingly, it took a long time, but David Wilcock finally now just blocked me on Twitter. So that's interesting, too.
From the Kingdom of Nye, Coast to Coast AM continues. with Art Bell.
All right, well, I said no future employees of Area 51, but this guy tripped me up. He's on the line now, and I can tell you're, like, in a vehicle of some kind.
Yes, I'm driving a truck right now because I'm making a historical study of life in the 20th century, and there's really no better way to study it than getting out there and seeing it and experiencing it.
So you're sort of slumming in the 20th, huh?
There you go. Actually, I'm from the 21st century, or the 21st century, the year 2072, and I worked at Area 51, or I guess you would say I will work at Area 51, which at that time is the nation's capital. There's a series of catastrophes that will occur, and I don't want to create a paradox by saying too much, but some events occur around the turn of the century in the eastern part of the country. Things happen where the government of the United States has to relocate.
Now, bear in mind that you're on the air right now in Washington, D.C. on WWRC. I mean, they're all listening to you, so...
Yes, that's why I have to be very careful.
Please be very careful, yes. So you're saying around the turn of the century, around 2000, something is going to happen.
Yeah, I don't want to get into any more than that, but I worked as an aide for the Office of the President at Area 51. And in that time, in 2072, the reason Area 51 was picked to be the capital of the United States, and for that matter, basically a one-world government is set up with the United States leading that effort.
Oh, good.
By that time, there will be no question of life throughout the universe. In fact, there'll be several races of aliens living with us. I can't get into much more detail than that. But
let me ask you a question. How far can you go? We all know what a paradox is. You know, going back and killing your father, if time travel were possible, would suddenly negate you, at least in one timeline. How far can you go in telling us things without creating a paradox, something that will shift what otherwise would occur in a timeline?
Well, I can't actually alter events. For example, if I come back now and I know if I invest in a certain thing in the stock market and become a huge multimillionaire,
yes,
when that individual who I am now didn't, according to my current history,
you would have changed things radically.
Right, and so I have to be very careful. Now, speaking in general terms, like I'm doing to you over the air.
So then we can safely assume Bill Gates is not a time traveler?
Bill Gates is not a time traveler.
Okay.
Bill Gates is Bill Gates, and...
got his money, honestly, in this timeline.
Yes, he honestly got it in this timeline, though there's some interesting things about Bill Gates. Without going into detail, expect Bill Gates to enter politics before too long.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I figured it would.
Now, is that something that could potentially? I mean, you must be on the gray line there regarding a paradox.
Well, I am, but here's the beauty of it. When I'm on the phone with you talking, it's subjective. It's people's opinion. So what I really say is real subjective. Some people might believe it, some people won't. So I'm fairly safe in making general statements like that because probably a lot of people aren't going to believe it anyway.
That's right. And so let me ask you this. Is there something minor but very specific that you can give us that's going to happen in the near-term future that we can watch for and say, aha, the guy from 2072 called it?
Yeah, we're going to have probably about March of this coming winter.
Yes.
Southern California and Arizona are going to suffer severe flooding as a result of the El Nino that's building. And in 1999, the winter of 1999, there's going to be a major devastating earthquake in Southern California.
Wait a minute, that was the winter of 99?
The winter of 1999.
How big will it be? Do you know?
From the history books I've read, it was about an 8.9 on the Richter scale.
Oh, my.
But I'm not, I can't give out numbers because we really don't know. There was just estimate numbers of deaths and injuries.
Did you get here using a physical time machine, or did you come through some sort of wormhole?
Well,
in other words, by what means did you come to this time, and why?
Okay, there are things around the planet that people now are calling vortexes or vortices,
Right.
such as in Sedona and a few places in California. By the year 2055, there's been a major breakthrough explaining these forces, and mankind has learned how to use those for time travel, both going forward and going past.
Well, now that is very interesting, because I interviewed a very well-respected physicist named Michio Kaku not long ago, who said that is exactly the way we would learn to travel in time.
Yes, and it works out very well, and you don't have to have the equipment at your destination. Now, when I left in 2072, there's equipment set up at these vortices in Sedona and other places around the world.
No.
Now, when I go through that and come to this time, I just pop out in the middle of the desert in the case of Sedona.
I've always wondered about that. How are you able to be sure that you don't pop here inside a mountain or a building or concrete or something awful like that?
Well, because we can go back to maps of the 20th century, and actually even earlier than that. We've got them archived on computer disks. And we know exactly where we can and cannot pop out.
So at least I know we still use computers, huh?
We do use computers, though it'll blow your mind the media that we'll be using at that time.
No, it wouldn't blow my mind at all. You buy a computer today and it's out of date now in about 3 or 4 months.
All I can say is virtual reality is only the beginning.
So it's going to be an interesting time, and there's going to be a gigantic event around the turn of the century, a serious event.
Yeah, the turn of the century is going to be rough, but mankind makes it through it. We do have some assistance from, how shall I say, elsewhere.
Elsewhere, others?
Yes, and after that event, things like racism, those kind of issues will no longer be around, because not only will we have to learn to live with people of different color, we're going to have to learn to live with beings who are not human. And this event, these series of events that occur around the turn of the century, is kind of a purging or a cleansing event. And the people that make it through that become a better species of people.
Are you going to stay and go through this period with us, or when things get rough, are you going to get going?
I got to be honest with you, Art. I'm out of here. I'm going to be a chicken and run. I'm not going to stay and go through that with you.
Would it be possible for somebody like myself, for example, who wants to avoid what's coming, to get a ticket to ride, so to speak, with you?
No, because there again, then you come up with a paradox issue.
Paradox.
You have a certain destiny you're meant to fulfill, and if you leave prematurely, that creates the paradox.
I understand.
But there are certain people that can leave.
Let me see if I can ask this.
Okay.
Do you know offhand whether I make it?
I can't answer that, because that might alter
Paradox.
the way you live your life.
I've got it. All right. Well, you've been a very, very interesting caller, and I hope you will call again.
I will do so.
All right. Thank you very much. Take care. There's a future Area 51 employer, present employee, present time traveler. I don't know. You sounded pretty good, huh? I've got to give him a good 7 or 8, maybe even better than an 8 on a scale of 10.